Well, hi everybody, Hillcrix here. Well, I'm just gonna do a little bit of talk about like heat management. We had our last game the other day, and we had some guys that they're knocking the rust off the old dice when it comes to playing Battletech, and there was some thought process going through is how to a little minor discussion. What do you do to manage the heat in your mech and say we're going to start our campaign? It's a 30-25 campaign. And what do you guys do when you decide to manage your heat? Do you look at the mech? Because I look at my mech and I look at how many heat sinks I have versus how many long range weapons I have, short range weapons. How can I block them together? Is it, let's say you got a Warhammer, let's say you got 18 heat sinks on this thing and you're carrying around 2 PPCs. Obviously, if you walk with this thing and fire both PPCs, you're cranking up the heat, up to 3. And I think in one of the videos I said, earlier, we're going back probably 3 years ago into the archives, when you're looking at all these videos I've been putting out, is okay, I know I can fire 2 of these PPCs, do some damage possibly, and then the next turn I have to shut one off and only fire 1. Now, I always look at it as like, okay, if I am firing just the 1 and I got 18, that leaves me, let's say 7. I'm walking. That leaves me 7 heat. Is there anything else that I can throw in the mix to keep my heat? I want to dissipate some heat. So I'm already up 3 on the heat scale, and I'm walking. Let's say that's 4 heat that I have to deal with. So I have to subtract that from my 18. That leaves me at 14. I'm firing a PPC, and then I'm looking at it. It's okay, I could throw in, if I get the SRM in range, maybe I can throw that SRM into the mix and still dissipate the heat, still walk, and then move from there. So, and then the next turn I can turn around and fire maybe both PPCs, because they possibly are a better firing solution for a couple 10-point shots versus maybe really gambling and say, okay, these other shots are going to be at long range, these PPCs are at medium range, and I have a better chance of doing damage with a PPC. So, and you always kind of, that's the process that goes through my head when I'm looking at how do I manage the heat. It's like, yes, there is a threshold that I'm willing to take. I'm willing to go up to 4 heat, and that is something I can manage pretty easily, because when you hit the 5, that's when you start seeing the modifiers. I grabbed one of the sheets from the game the other day, and you look at the heat is like, when you get to the level 5, you got a -1 to your movement. Now, some people say, oh, that's no big deal, but it can be if you're trying to escape or get that one pip extra movement. Might be the difference of you getting into some heavy woods or behind some cover to be able to protect yourself. So I always like to work my mechs up to the 4 heat threshold and not go up to 5. Now, I did have a mech that did get hit in an engine hit, and it's like, okay, now I got 5 extra heat. And then you look at how many heat sinks you have, subtract the 5, then that's what you got left to play with to start throwing something downrange. And that really affected how much I could really do. So that's something you got to look at. And then you look at the next threshold, which is at 8, which is a -1 to your, or +1 modifier. So it's how you look at it is, if I need normally a 7 to hit somebody and I'm already that hot, I need an 8. That difference of 1 pip when you're throwing the dice down on the table might be the difference between hitting and not hitting. It's like, that's saying let's say you got a 3-gunner, now you're become a 4-gunner. So you're actually hurting yourself by heating your mech up. Like, you get it. I've played games where individuals like, I got all these weapons, I'm firing all these weapons. well, you're going to heat yourself up and start cooking your mech. Don't care. I'm going to kill you. And then they fire everything, and they miss with half to 3/4 what they shot at me. They heat up their mech, and then it's like, yeah, you took a little bit of armor off. Now you're going to be sitting the next turn or two trying to cool off to be able to do better. And you have all these minuses and negatives that you're carrying around for during that time frame. And then when you look at it, you get into the 13 level heat, and you got a +2 modifier to fire. And then you get to 14, you get a shutdown on a 4+. I've had a mech before where it's like, yeah, I fired first, and it's like, yep, I'm firing all this stuff, and you know, everything's simultaneous. I fired everything, and they turned around and they got a lucky hit. You got the old snake eyes, went into the center torso, got 2 crits, gave me 2 engine hits, and then just fired me right up into the heat scale. And it's like, oh man, I got to make a shutdown on a 4+, and you roll snake eyes with it, and your mech shuts down. And then they turn around and say, oh, immobile target, and everybody shoots at it and just nukes it. That's because something lucky like that happens. And it can happen in the game. It's just the nature of the beast. But I've seen it happen where, including myself, where you get a mech shut down just because you rolled, you know, you got your mech too hot. And then when you look at something else here, and after the shutdown, you get into, was it 15? You get the minus movement points. You got -3 movement points at heat 15. Yeah, if you're a 4/6 mech, you -3, you're a 1/2. You're an easy target. You got no modifiers. You're just a parked mech sitting there firing away. And then you get to 17, you get a +3 modifier to hit. An 18, you got the shutdown on a 6+. And then the infamous one at 19, ammo explosion on a 4+. And I've told about this in a game before where a guy had a fresh mech, has never been shot before, never been hit by anything, and he was firing everything he had. He did his mech, he was running hot, and I turned around and hit him, and the only thing I hit him with was Infernos, hit him with Inferno 6-pack, and next thing you know, he is toasting, and he decided, oh, you got to make your first threshold on the ammo explosion for all your ammo on board, and the first thing he does is roll snake eyes, and the whole mech just goes up catastrophic, and it just chain reaction, it kills the pilot with all the explosions going on. That's because somebody's running around with a lot of heat, and it just gets worse from there. So you always got to look at your mechs and try to figure out how to put themselves in bracketing your fire. What I mean by is like, I'll fire these mech weapons at this range with only these ones, which will keep me in my heat level. And if you look at a mech, really look at it, a lot of them that come right out of the book mechs are actually pretty balanced when it comes to heat. You know, everybody looks at it as like, oh, if I fire everything, I'm going to be barbecuing. Well, not necessarily, because it's designed to shoot this weapon, and then when you get into this range, you're going to be shooting maybe this weapon and this weapon, and when you get into short range, those longer range weapons are probably no longer firing, you're shooting your short range stuff. And you want to keep yourself within that cooling bracket so you're not having any detrimental things happening to you. So you always got to look at that. Really study your mechs and just try to see how you're going to bracket your fire within your heat scale. What can you do to manage your heat so you're not destroying yourself? Because when you start fighting yourself, it makes the opponent have an easier job of taking you out. So look at them, study it, figure out how to set it up into range bands with your heat, you know, married up with all those heat sinks, and figure out how to get it done. All right, hope this makes sense. And we'll see you in the next one. Put your comments down, how you look at it. What's your thought process when you go to designing your heat management? All right, we'll talk to y'all later. Hellcrex out.